evening. My presentation is on Mexican Americans. So, some demographics of the Mexican American or Hispanic population is Hispanics are in the top five largest ethnic group in Alabama with 1.7%. 4.8% of the people in Alabama are Hispanic. The percentage of Hispanics that graduate from universities is 3.94%. So most people, I know I didn't see too many Hispanic people at my college, but it's proof that many Hispanics graduate from college and universities. And the most common racial or ethnic group living below the poverty line in Alabama is white, followed by black and Hispanic. So here I have a chart of the poverty line, and then as you can see, um, white people is the most in the poverty line, and then black people at 16%, and then Hispanic on the other side. So the local history of Hispanics. The Hispanic community has increased by 200% in the last 2 decades, according to the Hispanic Interest Coalition of Alabama. The first Hispanics that arrived in Alabama were 200 years ago before English or French settlers came in the 18th century. The Hispanics did not come in looking for work. They came in on war horses searching for gold, taking Indians as slaves, and wrecking the neighborhood. They were conquistadors led by Hernando de Soto. So also, continuing on with the local history, during the American Revolution, the Spanish-Cuban naval expedition kicked English out of Mobile, Alabama, and brought Hispanic warriors into Alabama. And about 4 centuries later, De Soto brought Hispanics to Alabama. The Hispanics brought their strong work ethic and desire to find jobs and to live a better life. So the Hispanic culture and values. So as we know, Hispanics are really big on family. Normally, when you go somewhere, you always see Hispanics in a group. So when I interviewed, I went to Chisholm Community Center, and a group of Hispanics go there every Saturday and Sunday, and they play soccer. And I was fortunate enough to interview one of the soccer players. His name was Carlos, and he was telling me how family basically is all they have. So they always stick together. And growing up, he said everyone was different. So he was fortunate enough to go to a nice school. He went to Lamp High School, which is, I want to say, a private school. And he said he had a nice childhood growing up, but others, he told me, they didn't have it like he did. So other children growing up, he said they had to go to schools in lower income neighborhoods, and they didn't have the advantage and opportunities in school like he had. And I know one of my coworkers, he used to be a English teacher, and he had a Hispanic girl in his class, and he was saying the Hispanic girl used to basically tell him how when she was growing up, at around 13, she stopped receiving Christmas gifts. So her family didn't give her gifts and everything anymore. She had to take more of an adult role, and she wasn't allowed to show emotions. So, and I've heard that quite a lot, that a lot of Hispanics don't allow their children to show their emotions. But I guess it just depends on the environment they're in and their parents. Because some Hispanics can show their emotions, and some Hispanics are are taught not to. Also, food is another big culture thing. It's something that Hispanic people actually value. So after researching and watching videos, a lot of people say if you're invited into someone's home and they're Hispanic and you don't eat, that's offensive to them, because the first thing they try to do is feed you. And also, another thing is sports. So the Hispanic community is really big on football, which is what we also know as soccer. It brings all of them together. It's a really fun sport for them. And like I said, I went to the Chisholm Community Center, and they rent it out every Saturday and Sunday. The person that rents it out, his name is actually Carlos as well. And I was told he's been doing this for years. He's been down here for several years, and every Saturday and Sunday, they always rent out the community center for all the Hispanics to get together and play football and watch each other. So here I have a video further explaining the Hispanic culture and values.
Latino culture? What does that look like in the United States? And is there a difference between the two?
Yes. I think there is I think more definition wise and also who you ask, because Hispanic usually means someone from a Spanish speaking country, whereas Latino is someone from Latin America. So like Brazil is usually like the good kind of example, where Brazil doesn't speak Spanish, but you are Latino if you're from there because it's in Latin America. And there's Spain where they speak Spanish, but that's not a Latino country, and also doesn't have a lot of the things you would consider like Latino culture. So I think there's a huge difference, and I don't think, like, particularly, I don't care. Like, I'm Hispanic, and that's a U.S. term for us. I'm Latino because that just kind of resonates with me a little bit more, just because I'm from Latin America, and to me, that being Latino and kind of like a lot of the aspects of being Latino, you know, is more Latino Hispanic. So I think that we are extremely welcoming of anybody. I'm not sure if that is because a lot of Mexicans have immigrated to the U.S., when a lot of them don't have families here, so you don't have to recreate a family or create your village that's going to support you. So I mean, if you ever go to a Mexican household, you're always going to be welcome. It doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter anything. Like, come sit down and eat. And the only time you will have any issues is if you say you don't want to eat the food or you already ate. You sit down and you eat, and then you become family, and that's just the way it is. But I think it's very similar to any other family where we like to be together. It usually is around food and celebrating. Like, we don't, everything, it's always a party because we like to celebrate and get to see each other. Mexican food is, again, very big rice based and corn, so you always have tortillas. Like, I know people in the US eat tacos as a kind of a prepared dish, but in Mexico, tortillas are used to make tacos of whatever it is you're eating. So it's not like you're going to eat tacos, you're going to eat maybe a beef stew dish or a saute with rice and beans, and you use tortilla to eat it. So you will always kind of have that as kind of the layout for the meal. And some of my favorite things that my mom cooks are obviously tamales, which are super popular in Mexico. And they take a lot of effort, and you can taste it. So they're so good. Mexico is an extremely Catholic country. Like, Catholic, I was born Catholic, and then I was baptized officially into the Catholic religion. But there's a couple of things that we do, I think, differently that I haven't seen in as many countries. One of them being posadas, which is done around Christmas time, and it's kind of us recreating the journey when they were asking for somewhere to stay. So what you do is there's one family who's hosting the party, and everyone else who's coming in will come outside the house and ask for like shelter, just like Mary and Joseph did when they were traveling. So you go in, you say like, "Hi, I need shelter. Like, my wife is pregnant. Like, it's cold. We need somewhere." So we go, we sing, and then they let us in. And they do this posadas a couple of times leading up to Christmas. And it's just again celebrating of the journey and understanding of like kind of giving and just being there when someone is in need, such was just Joseph and Mary. But we also have Dia de los Muertos, which is around Halloween. And again, it's celebrating your dead ancestors and like kind of just giving them back and just acknowledging and remembering them. And I think that's more of a pre-colonial celebration. That's more of like, kind of bringing back the heritage of the country and still integrating in the Catholic blessings that were brought to us, I guess, Calvinism. Yeah, so I think that's very special to our country because I don't think you can see Catholic culture like that anywhere else. It's because they decided to mix them together, kind of the Aztec, more of like the colonial kind of love they had for what they did and bringing it together. So yeah, Dia de los Muertos is awesome. It's so colorful. I think it's one of the most colorful holidays that we have. There's altars. There's just little orange flowers that grow, right before we have to take them off and like decorate everything. There's a lot of candles with all the saints that we have, which I think it's also that Mexicans love saints, and we have a lot of them like in little candles. So again, it is back to like looking back at Latin America. There's like I think 26 countries, I believe, or maybe it's a lot of countries that that we're trying to lump together into one, and they're all very different. Like if you go from Mexico, where I'm from, you know, one of the big differentiators that we have a lot of spicy food, and it's all rice, beans, and corn and all that. Basis when you go to Argentina, it's more of a European feel, and they have more of. Obviously, they enjoy eating a lot of meat, and there's a lot more wine, a lot of different things in their culture. And you go to Colombia, you go to Peru, they're all different. Um, so I think it's when you do want, if you want to understand the culture better, I think it is better to take that one extra step and ask people what country they're from, because that is going to inform your experience a lot more. Because you might come to my house and have a very, very different experience than if you go to a Colombian household. They're both going to be warm, they're both going to be Latino, they're both are going to be in Spanish, but they're going to have different feels. And I think, you know, if you kind of go ahead and attach an actual country to the experience, you'll understand the differences and appreciate what you're experiencing a lot better. There's a lot of differences, both culture, both like political, like there's a lot of things that go into how that culture is expressed. And just taking a little bit of time to kind of do a little bit of research, I think will give you a richer experience, because then you have some sort of framework that you can start putting all of what you're learning into, and you're like, okay, now I have a broader, more informed perspective.
Okay, so Iron Man, a pop star, and an NFL wide receiver.
So that was just a brief video giving more explanation of the Hispanic culture. So, what does the Hispanic population bring? The Hispanic culture contributes to America by bringing their music, businesses, architecture, etc. They also bring dances such as salsa, samba, and cha-cha. And I'm pretty sure we're all familiar with the cha-cha. Hispanic Americans alone account for half of the population growth in the United States over the last decade. So the economic output is well over $2 trillion just from the Hispanic population. So they bring a lot of revenue to the United States. So a popular holiday that is really popular in the United States, but it's a Hispanic holiday, is Cinco de Mayo. So I have two videos here that further explain Cinco de Mayo and the history of it.
Cinco de Mayo, the big college campus and bars across the country are packed with people enjoying guacamole, putting on big hats, downing a lot of tequila. But how did this holiday get its start? Here's a brief history of Cinco de Mayo. First, let's get a common misconception out of the way. Cinco de Mayo is not Mexico's Independence Day. That's the 16th of September, a completely different holiday. Cinco de Mayo commemorates a big battle. It was known as the Battle of Pueblo, fought on May 5th, 1862 between Mexico and France. Mexico owed France, along with Spain and England, a lot of money. The three countries sent troops to Mexico to demand payment. Spain and England reached an agreement and left, but France set out to attack Mexican forces in Pueblo. The battle lasted 3 hours. Mexico was victorious. The French lost nearly 500 men, while Mexico lost less than 100. Although the French would return just a year later to recapture Pueblo and the rest of Mexico, the Battle of Pueblo created a sense of national pride, and it was declared a national holiday. Today, Cinco de Mayo is a relatively minor holiday in Mexico, mostly celebrated in Pueblo where the battle took place. Most of the country considers Mexican Independence Day, celebrated on September 16th, to be a more important day to express their patriotism. But in the U.S., Cinco de Mayo has become a massive holiday, with large celebrations taking place in Los Angeles, Chicago, Denver, Houston, New York City. George W. Bush was the first president to honor the holiday at the White House.
Casablanca. Es su Casablanca.
Adios. Festivities in the U.S., like most imported holidays, usually amount to consuming lots of booze and food. 30.6 million cases of beer, 87.3 million pounds of avocados were sold on Cinco de Mayo week in 2013, making 658 million in booze revenue and 349 million servings of guacamole. With 33.6 million U.S. residents claiming Mexican descent and others partying just because, it's no wonder this holiday's become one of the largest in the country.
And then here's the next video.
Cinco de Mayo is not as much about tequila and tacos as you might think. The day actually commemorates when Mexico defeated the French in 1862 in the Battle of Puebla. While Cinco de Mayo is roundly celebrated in the United States, it's generally a normal day in Mexico, except in Puebla, where the battle was won, as it's not a national holiday. It's a big earner in the US, as it's among the top 5 drinking holidays. In Puebla, the celebration includes live music, traditional dancing, piñatas, and of course, mole poblano, an iconic dish made with chili peppers and chocolate, usually served over chicken. And instead of tequila, the most popular drink this day is agua fresca, flavored water combined with fruits, seeds, and flowers.
So those videos were just an explanation of Cinco de Mayo and how the Hispanic culture really brought that to the United States and how we celebrate it. And it's one of our, not most expensive, but we make a lot of money from Cinco de Mayo. So, I want to talk about the NASW Code of Ethics. So one code of ethics that I took was the value, importance of human relationships and the ethical principle, which is social workers recognize the central importance of human relationships. Social workers understand that relationships between and among people are an important vehicle for change. Social workers engage people as partners in helping process. Social workers seek to strengthen relationships among people in a purposeful effort to promote, restore, maintain, and enhance the well-being of individuals, families, social groups, organizations, and communities. So, being a social worker working with this community, it has its pros and it has its cons. Cons, I will say, after visiting different organizations, I went to one agency called Catholic Social Services. And one way I feel like I would run into some ethical dilemmas would be when I was talking to Ms. Rios from the Catholic Social Services, she told me one big problem I'm sorry, my computer restarted. But just to finish what I was saying while my computer is starting back up, one big problem will be that a lot of Hispanics do not have their driver's license when they come to the United States, but they still ride around without their license. So as a social worker, I feel like that would be a dilemma, because what am I supposed to do knowing that they're driving around without their licensed, but they can't speak English to get their license. That was another problem Ms. Rios was telling me at the Catholic Social Service, where a lot of Hispanics don't know how to speak English, and that's a really big hardship because it's hard to get them the help and resources that they need. So as social worker, as a future social worker, I would want to provide more resources to help Hispanics speak more English, so that way they can communicate with us better, and also more resources for jobs. So as I previously stated, when I went to the Chisholm Community Center and I spoke to Carlos when I interviewed him, one thing that he told me that Hispanics don't have a lot of job opportunities here in the United States. So while they do enjoy staying here, he told me a lot of Hispanics work in construction, and I know I've always seen Hispanics work in construction, and he said they don't work in construction because they want to, it's kind of because they have to. And an example he gave me was, how many Hispanic people do you see in a bank? And I told him I've never seen a Hispanic person working in a bank, and he was just basically just telling me that it's hard to get jobs as a Hispanic person, and construction pays more. And he also said that they face a lot of discrimination, which I have noticed that too, because they're Hispanic. They don't get the jobs that they may want because people discriminate towards them. And I know a lot of people discriminate because they think Hispanic people come here and they take our jobs, even when they are legal and they're legal Americans. So that's one discrimination that they go through. And the last thing I had on my PowerPoint, I talked about the agencies that I went to. So I already talked about the Chisholm Community Center, and then the Catholic Social Services. So I can dive deeper into that. The Catholic Social Services, they provide many different ministries. So one ministry they provide is called Direct Aid, and so even if you're Hispanic, Ms. Rios, that was the caseworker, and she works with immigration. She would, if a Hispanic comes and they can't speak English, she would translate, and she would send them to Direct Aid, and if they needed help with utilities such as their water bill or their gas bill, power bill, even rent, the Direct Aid will make sure that they pay that for them. So you have to be eligible, so you'll have to bring certain documents as far as your photo ID, how much you make, how much they make in that in their household, and things in that nature. And they also, if they need food, the Direct Aid will provide food for them and make sure they have everything that they need as long as they're eligible. I know they have to call between 8 a.m. and 4:30 and schedule an appointment. So the Direct Aid people that work over there, they'll give them a time to come in, and then they'll come in and then get the services that they need. So as I work with this population, I feel like I would be comfortable with the resources that are here. Oh, one last resource that they have that I found was called HOBA, and it is the first River Region organization focused on serving the Hispanic community. So it's also called the Hispanic Outreach Leadership and Action. And basically, their mission is to educate, connect, and empower the Latino community in the river region of Alabama. So they basically they help with resources just like the Catholic Social Services, and they just want to help the Hispanic community more, get them more resources. So I feel like as a social worker with these agencies, I would want to work with these agencies to help the Hispanic community. So far, my experience working with this population, I feel like it was really good, but it was also a really big learning experience, and I just learned a lot from working with this population.